Welcome back. Now, please note the following story has graphic details that may upset sensitive viewers. Eastern Cape Judge President Mbenenge has denied that an emoji of a peeled banana had a sexual connotation. The Judge President maintains that his interactions with complainant Andiswa Mengo were consensual and flirtatious. Now, to help us understand the use of emojis and how they could get us into trouble in the workplace, I am now joined by Professor Steve Cornelius, Head of the Department of Private Law. Professor Cornelius, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now,
thank you.
WhatsApp has become a key tool for workplace communications, but there clearly are do's and don'ts, and there are fine lines that can easily be crossed. Are there simple do's and don'ts?
I think where any social media, and that actually includes email, so any electronic communication process that is used for official business purposes, one should keep in mind that one should remain professional, be precise in what you write, and remember that anything that you put in there can later become evidence, whether it's, as in this case with the Eastern Cape Judge President now, or even simply whether a contract has been concluded or whether a particular communication has taken place. So the rule of thumb, if one uses any electronic media, it's the same as with writing. Be professional and think about what you are writing and putting on the screen or on the paper, and make sure that it conveys the message that you intended to convey.
Yeah, true, Prof. And I think also the difference here, when it is written text and when it comes to emojis, with emojis, there's no dictionary, there's no thesaurus, and there is a lot of the times a different perception of what different emojis mean, depending on context, depending on generation, depending on who is using it. So how does it then work when it comes to specifically emojis? Should one in a professional setting perhaps even avoid them altogether? And if so, is that even viable?
Yeah, I think one should also keep in mind that it's not only emojis that are complex in this sense. Even words are different. The meaning of words differ depending on who uses it. The meaning of a word can differ in the context that it is used, depending on which generation is using it. If you listen to the Generation Z speaking, I sometimes wonder if I know the English language. So it's not simply only emojis, although emojis do make it more complicated. And because of this, when courts have to interpret any form of communication, whether it is verbal, written, or pictograms like emojis, a court will look at what the objective meaning is that someone would reasonably attach to that. And that is the complicated thing. We cannot read each other's minds, and sometimes I think it's a good thing. But the point is, the only way we can judge the words or communication of somebody is by looking at what a reasonable person would make of it in the particular context. And certainly with emojis, it's very, very important to understand that they can have multiple different meanings. They can be interpreted differently by different people, and one should be very, very careful in using them. As you say, I don't think it's easy to simply exclude them completely. But again, when you use it, think about it and be considerate of how other people could interpret it.
There was an interesting case study that was done that was talking about different emojis that are used in the workplace. For instance, the simple smile emoji. One colleague took it to be passive-aggressive, while somebody else took it to mean no, A-OK. Or, for instance, the shop sign. Some people say it's used for a passive-aggressive response. Some people say it's just noted. Are these different nuances also making the court's jobs a little bit more difficult and those in the legal field?
Absolutely. No, it does make the job more difficult. And the problem also is the same word or emoji can mean one thing in one context, and it could simply be the simple thumbs up emoji could simply be, yes, I agree, or it's in order or whatever. But in the correct context, it can be an aggressive sign. So that's the problem with any form of communication. is one needs to look at the context in which it takes place. And, if you take it out of context, often it appears innocuous or not important. But if you look at a broader context, it can be construed as an aggressive sign. And that is, again, I've got a rule of thumb, especially if somebody sends me an email that upsets me, is I would type a reply and then don't send it. And I would wait a few minutes and read it again. And if you read it the second time, this is a bit of an aggressive reply. Maybe I should just tone it down. And I think that is something, especially in workplace communication, that people should do as a rule of thumb. Type your reply, think about it carefully, and then retype it and then only send it. Because especially if you are upset by a communication, it's very easy and very quick to do an inappropriate reply. In the time when you only did writing, you would write the stern reply, and then before you send it, you'd have time to think about it. But electronic media are so quick these days. You can press send before you've really thought about what you've replied. And that makes it so dangerous, and why it's necessary to review before you send.
Yeah, something that seems as simple as a banana emoji, for instance, that has taken center stage at this hearing as well with the Eastern Cape Judge President. Can this then be constituted, considering that he said that their conversations were, one, consensual, but also flirtatious, that it is then a sexual connotation when you're using that kind of emoji?
Well, certainly in the context, it can be interpreted as a sexual connotation. There's actually a case overseas where a person sent a rude reply to his boss, and he added the red face emoji, which clearly expresses anger, but then he added the eggplant emoji. And again, the court in that case attached a sexual connotation to the eggplant emoji. And that is similar to the peeled banana in this case. So the context in which something is used, if I'm saying I'm hungry, I'm going to go for lunch, and I put that banana emoji in there, people will interpret that as I'm going to eat a banana. But if I'm sending an amorous message to somebody, and I add that banana, then obviously in the context, it might be that I've got a more sexual connotation to that particular emoji. So again, the context in which something is used is extremely, extremely important.
Fascinating conversation indeed. Thank you so much, Prof, for speaking to us this evening. That, of course, is Professor Steve Cornelius, who is the head of Department of Private Law.